Hi there, my name is Simmone Haywood and I am co-founder at the Millwood Partnership, which is an HR consultancy, and we work with mid-sized organisations across many sectors. Prior to starting my own business, I was the HR director at Marks & Spencer, and I joined M&S on one of their management training schemes some 30 years ago, so had a very long career with one organisation. And I'm delighted to be here sharing some of my interest around supporting young people as they transition out of education into work today.
So what is it that employers are looking for most when they're hiring young people today?
Do you know, in my time at M&S, I recruited an awful lot of graduates or young joiners into our management schemes. And I think more and more these days, employers are looking for passion, they're looking for energy, drive, commitment, and they're looking for those human skills that are really today the differentiator between success and otherwise in the workplace.
Yes, definitely. So talking about those life skills, how can young people develop their self-awareness?
So, yeah, self-awareness is interesting. We run a business called fastforward.me, which is part of our HR consultancy, and it focuses around developing young people and their self-awareness. We work with 12 core attributes, and we explore these through a psychometric. So there's lots and lots of opportunity to access psychometrics, free resources available online these days, but we also offer personal career coaching with business people, so people who've got lived business experience. And it's actually the self-awareness that is the difference between somebody being able to really drive success in what they choose to do. Knowing yourself enables you to really understand and experience and think about the situations that you find yourself in and how you can build resilience and respond well in any given situation.
So you touched on it slightly already, but why is it that self-awareness is so important? So in particular, when developing confidence?
Yeah, so I think if you are more self-aware, you've got a much better understanding of what your strengths and your development areas are. And therefore, if you're going into a situation where you might be less confident, you can be more prepared. You can think through in advance, and you can speak and communicate confidently about the areas that you are, naturally better at. I know from my own experience, I chose not to go to university. I did my A-levels. I got 3 okay A-levels when I left school. But I knew I had a passion around people. And it was that really that drove me, and learning more about why I was keen to work with people. What was it that motivated me? So building my own knowledge and self-awareness really sort of led me to a career in HR, if you like. It was that self-awareness that helped me understand and realise why I was attracted and driven to work in HR.
So another set of skills that I know are important are behavioural skills. So when we talk about behavioural skills, what does that actually mean?
So behavioural skills are really human skills. So they are skills around, for example, communication. They might be around leadership skills. You might be particularly strong around numbers or data and have a real interest in finding solutions to problems. So it's these sorts of skills we're talking about. Technical skills can generally be learned on the job. What I'm talking about here is those softer skills, those human skills.
Great. So in all your experience, as you mentioned, you've done a number of years working for M&S and running your own business. What are your top tips that you can give someone who is attending their first ever interview?
First and foremost, I would say congratulations, because it's likely to mean that you've got through the CV stage. And that's no mean feat these days. It's a really competitive landscape. I would then say show up for that interview. Be energetic, be passionate. Look your interviewer in the eye, and that's the same as whether you're on a virtual interview or whether you're face to face. And if you are nervous or you're feeling anxious, then my advice would be to tell the interviewer that that's how you're feeling. Immediately that demonstrates self-awareness and it breaks down those barriers. I would then say in advance, be prepared. So have thought about some examples that bring your skills to life or your attributes to life in relation to the job that you're going for. Always have a question to ask at the end of the interview because you're bound to be offered the opportunity. So they would be my top tips. Oh, and more often than not, being yourself is really powerful. So be authentic, be yourself. You're far more likely to be successful in the role if you've been yourself at interview.
Great. That's some really good tips there. I'm going to take some of them myself when I go for my next interviews. So a lot of the people watching today will be parents or young people themselves. So how can parents best support their young people in working out what they want to do in the future?
Look, being a parent is really tricky. I've got 3 children myself. They're all just either in or just out of their teenage years. Nobody hands you a manual when you're a parent to sort of guide you. I think the best advice I could offer would be to always listen and listen and really hear. Your children are independent individuals. They may have very different career aspirations to yourself. So I think listening is critical. And then more often than not, what young adults are looking for is a sense of confidence and genuine support for the things that they want to try, the things that they want to explore. And let's face it, they're likely to fail at some of it, but failure is a really great opportunity to learn. So if that does happen, I would just continue to encourage and take the learning and the resilience that's building up along the way.
Great, perfect, thank you very much. So another area that people, particularly young people, worry about when applying for jobs is that they don't have enough experience. It's a very common thing that young people say, well, I haven't had the opportunity to get the experience, but yet this job is looking for experience. Yeah. So how can young people address this?
Yeah, it's really, really tricky. But the 2 things that I would draw on here is about, volunteering is a great way to get experience. And if you have got time on your hands, whilst you're looking for that dream job, spend that time wisely. And volunteering for local charities or clubs or supporting some way your community really will demonstrate to that employer that you've got some get up and go and you're prepared to make a commitment of time, which is really important. Secondly, don't forget the things you have done. Hobbies at school, being involved in sport, that sort of thing demonstrates leadership, again, commitment, loyalty, encouragement of others. These are all ways that you can bring to life things that you've done and use that instead of having, being able to draw on work experience. And it's worth me saying, I did do some voluntary work before I joined M&S. I knew I wanted to work around people, and I worked for Deptford Crypt, which is a shelter for homeless people. And I think that's what really ignited my sense of purpose around, a real belief that everybody's got potential, and it's very easy to fall off a path. But actually doing that sort of voluntary work enabled me to understand more about myself, but also use that time, use that experience to bring some examples to life in the interview that I went to when I was joining M&S.
In summary of everything you've been speaking about today, and for any young people listening, what are the key things you would like them to take away and remember?
Yeah, key takeaways. I think I try and make things really easy because I know, there's a lot of information out there around this kind of subject, and it can be really confusing for young people to think through, what are the options and what do they really want to do. I'm a firm believer that doing something you love is going to bring the best out of you. So I suppose if I were to summarise, I would think about purpose, I would think about preparation, and I would think about presentation. So what do I mean by that? Purpose. Purpose for me is really important, and it's about understanding why you want to do something. So thinking through, why does something interest you? Why is it that you particularly like something? Why might you be better at some things than others? And that's where the whole self-awareness comes in. So it might even be actually that it's something you're not so good at, but you've got a real desire to develop it. So again, there's a really important why. So purpose is really critical. So think purpose. Then think preparation. As I said before, how you show up for something. How are you going to be the best version of yourself? And that is about thinking through examples of stuff that you've done, practicing, answering questions, get in front of a mirror and do some practicing of talking about yourself. It's really hard to talk about yourself. So really, really good preparation would be the second thing. And then presentation. And I don't just mean presentation in terms of, I do mean how you show up at an interview, and it is important to look the part. Even if you're on a virtual interview, to pay some attention to what you're wearing, look somebody in the eye, but be keen and enthusiastic to give as much of yourself as you possibly can. But most importantly, you are unique, you are an individual, and so be yourself, be your authentic self. And I have a little saying sometimes, I say to myself, if not me, then who? And if not now, then when? So just go for it, and have some fun along the way.